Oh my lord, this is unbelievable. This daily race A feels like an actual initial D race. Anyways, it's Monday and everybody knows what it means. Daily Race A is crazy. You got the Subaru on comfort soft tires on the Nürburgring Notschleife, which is just a crazy combo that I've never seen before. So as the clock starts ticking, it's lights out and away we go. Doing a standing start is also a new thing as I go straight into the barrier. It's literally the first race. I had zero practice, so obviously I'm gonna be very rusty. As I head straight into turn 1, I ram into the driver up ahead because I didn't really have another chance. I was fully on the brakes, nearly locked up and started sliding. The grip is much less than what you would expect, and that's what makes it more slippery. And you can see I'm pushing angles everywhere, left, right and center. As I pushed a nice overtake on the French driver, now I'm looking at the position up ahead for the Norwegian, as I absolutely demolish that curve and I start drifting my way through into this nice section. That is the theme of the entire race, a lot of all-wheel drift. And mind you, the intensity of the Subaru itself, it's a really fast car on quite slippery tires, so it makes for such a good car track combo. As I get closer to the Norwegian driver, I'm looking for an overtake immediately, so into the nice long right hander, I'm gonna look to set an overtake right about here. Going down the inside is quite a nice overtake, and he nearly goes off track, but somehow he managed to keep it on track. Now, the Nürburgring is a very tight circuit, so in the literal sense, this is a recreation of an initial D race. It's very nice to have a track that can barely fit two cars side by side and race on very soft tires. It's pretty much a drift toge in a sense. Obviously, like, it's semi-drift, semi-grip. It's not fully drifting. You're doing an all-wheel drift or a power slide out of a lot of corners, and you're looking to be very slippery as I go for an absolute skill issue over here, gaining myself a second penalty, but at least I make an overtake on the finish driver. And now going into the downhill, I'm again still chasing the Norwegian once again, looking to overtake as soon as I can, but he's quite a distance ahead. He's about 0.9 of a second, is now going to 0.1, full second ahead. The major skill issue I had really was not kind to me, but as I go onto the uphill right now, we're transitioning into a left and then braking, turning, and drifting all the way through, looking to decrease the gap as much as possible. And yes, drifting is the fastest way possible around tight corners with these cars set up. So I suggest before doing this race you take some drifting classes, but it's an all-wheel drive car, so drifting isn't really difficult. What you need to know is once your throttle is pinned, it's pinned. You cannot lift it off or you will understeer and go off into the barrier. As I'm looking for a nice overtaking opportunity here, I'm gonna look down his inside, but I'm not close enough, so I'm gonna have to just stabilize myself, make sure I get that bit closer. He brakes a little early, so that just gives me the absolute send down the inside, and now all I have to do is protect the inside of next corner, but really he's not close enough, so I'm not too concerned about him. Anyway, I still go for a drift around this hairpin because it is the fastest way, at least I believe. There is not much resistance for rolling the car or getting the car into drifting, so you don't really lose much speed, and then once you have the momentum going in the tires, it actually gives you a nice push out of the corner. But again, it's very difficult to nail correctly, and you can say 80% you will make a mistake and go fully off or just be slower. The amount of commitment you need is crazy because again, once you're in a four-wheel drift state, the throttle stays pinned to the floor. Lifting it is just losing time. Doesn't matter what you do, you need to commit before you turn while you're braking. You have to brake in such a way that changes the balance of the car into the desired angle, and then that's when you pin the throttle, because I'll be fair, the throttle doesn't do much here. It's either on or off. There is not really, throttle control. It's on or off. And that's what makes it so difficult and yet so rewarding at the same time. It's a very good combo in my opinion. But for this race there wasn't really much left. I'm just gonna skip forward to the end of the lap, and you can see me going to serve my penalty, still in P4. There is about 4 seconds of the car behind. But, penalties aren't kind. You're gonna serve it right on the Dottinger Straight, not in the end, in the absolute beginning of the Dottinger Straight. So, it's gonna be a very nice long straight where people are just gonna basically catch up by 4 seconds. No. It's about 3, I'm not sure. It's between 3 and 4, depending on car track category. But I go to display an absolute skill issue in this corner, and yeah, I basically bin it and send it into the wall. Very nice. So, I'm not really taking this race seriously. Again, it's a race for fun. All daily race A's are for fun. But it's still not a nice feeling to lose. And I tried to go for another crazy drift, but it didn't work at all. And you can say I never learned from my mistakes. So I sent it into the wall once again, shifting the car into reverse and finishing the race backwards, which is crazy. So this race was so good, I basically had to do it again. So here we go, round 2. The cars are lined up, the clock starts ticking, engines are revving, slides out, and away we go. I'm starting a little further back and then going for an absolute send of an overtake into this corner. It's very nice, just doing that drift into that 90-degree bend. And the thing with drifting is it's actually more infuriating for other drivers, so it kind of forces him to back out of a lot of things. As I go to show this driver some love and affection by giving him a kiss on a bumper, he knows I'm up in there and I'm ready to overtake as soon as possible. So my first overtaking opportunity is right into that corner, but I'm not close enough, so I'm just gonna, you know, be very cautious with it. Now I'm very close to him and he's attempting to cover it, but I'm not gonna back down, and I switch from what was the outside and now into his inside. He fully blocks it. Very idiotic moves. He did not see me coming in there at all. And I know the track is very tight, but at least you should at least leave the space. There is the space. I've seen a lot of overtakes there. Anyway, it's not much of a deal because he crashed himself, so at least I retain my position. And I'm trying to catch the finish driver again up in front. But it's easier said than done, given I have a bunch of damage that will take about 30 seconds to repair. Daily races usually never run with heavy damage, so the light damage, it repairs itself automatically after a certain amount of time. Again, 30 seconds usually. I didn't really count it, so don't take my word for that. Anyway, what's good is that my damage repaired right before this nice bend, so I did not have any precaution going to the corner. I was very confident, and I didn't have to like baby the car or nurse the car through. And you can see I'm catching the pack in front very fast, purely because I know how to sort of drift the car. I got a bit more practice than before, and that's why I get more motion overall. So as we start building the speed, we are approaching the very tight left-hander. I mean, it's not too tight, but you do have to brake, and you're going very fast. You have to be very cautious of going uphill and then going into a slight downhill. And I nearly set it off the track, but luckily I managed to kick out the rear and lose a lot of speed just before, you know, going off the track. As another driver, he was off the track and he goes back on. Good thing ghosting existed because I managed to just go right about through. There was some space, but there was that pixel where I would have hit him if he didn't ghost. So now again, we're going down this very fast downhill and then going into the uphill. We're going to brake just midway through that uphill section and then be very cautious with our braking application. Make sure that I don't spin out, but he braked way too early and I didn't really predict him at all. Even the other driver, he braked much later than Dutch. Is that Dutch? I cannot see it. I think Dutch. Anyway, I did have more good than harm, so I'm pretty sure he appreciates it. Yeah, he might have some little rear damage, but there is not a single aerodynamical element to be worried about. So as I'm going down the straight right now, I'm looking to send an overtake into this corner because again, I'm very confident here. Doesn't matter which car, I'm super confident in these two corners. And I send an overtake just about braking perfectly and making sure that I don't hit him, obviously. And now I'm up ahead and I'm just gonna flex my way through by flashing my rear end. This corner is such a good corner to drift because you got a lot of room for error and it's very forgiving overall compared to other parts of the Nürburgring. So now we are going into this nice downhill, going to these very sharp corners. They're not too sharp, but if you're going fast enough, they will be a concern. You got a long braking sector where I do display a skill issue. You usually have to ride the brakes there. It's not really a heavy braking zone, but you do brake for a long time and you have to ride the brakes all the way through. As I go for another skill issue, I braked a bit too late, or you could say I didn't get the brakes down as I would like, so that slowed me down a bunch. But the drivers behind are actually slower, so it's not much of a concern at all once again. And going into this section, pretty much my favorite section. And you can say that's because I struggled a lot with it on the circuit experience, and then once I learned it, it was just very rewarding to drive in the section all the time. Doesn't matter what car now, I genuinely enjoy it because before I used to hate it absolutely. You have a lot of very fast and flowing corners, left, right, up, down. It's very hilly, it's very fast, it's very flowing. Unlike the first part of the Nürburgring where you got a lot of tight corners. And this section is just very, very nice once you know how to take it. Especially with a car as slippery as this, you can send a lot of nice little drifts, mini drifts, into the corners and just drive the car in a slip angle approach. Which is, again, you need to be absolutely balls, and if you nail it, it's just so rewarding and such a good feeling to do. Anyway, I got a little distracted. Goal is to catch the British driver up in front, and yeah, I am catching him bit by bit. But you know, the Nürburgring we're basically more than halfway through. I think 3/3 through, and we don't really have much of a Nürburgring yet. We just have, you can say, 5 kilometers of twisty sections and then the Nottingham Straight, which is very long, and there's not much action going there anyways. But, you know, the British driver does go for a skill issue, and he displays it by drifting a bit too much and slowing himself way too much. So that immediately prompts me to be on his bumper, and now I'm put in a position where I can look into an overtake at pretty much any corner that allows. Now, going into pretty much the very few corners just before the Nottingham straight, you have this very long right-hander that you have to ride the brakes a lot for. Apparently he didn't ride the brakes and he just slammed on it, and I didn't expect him to do that at all. So I literally threw the car like 90% on the grass in an attempt to avoid him, but I couldn't do much, and I gave myself a 2-second penalty in the process, which is absolute bollocks in my opinion. But hey, there was an obstruction on track and I didn't really know what to avoid, so yeah, I did hit him off, but it's not like he spun out. He's still not far behind. It's still actually quite close. You can see him on the map or on the telemetry. Anyway, I'm very excited to serve what seems like a life sentence of a penalty right before the Nottingham straight, which will pretty much ruin any chance I wanted of claiming P5. It's better if I didn't claim the penalty and go all the way through to the end and then just claim the penalty in the time instead of doing it on track, because it slows me down so much. And you can see, driver behind, serve the penalty, yes, but both of them are still much faster and they're just building up the speed. Yes, I did attempt to cover him up, but you know, bit of a questionable tactics, but come on, it's daily race A. Everybody's gonna throw some elbows out. No matter how hard you try, I couldn't categorize it as a ranked race, purely because it's actually not a ranked race. There is no driver changes, yes, some sportsman changes, but no driver changes at all. So in terms of pressure of being good, there is not much. All you want to do is throw some elbows out. So as the Nottingham straight ends, we're going into this twisty section where you do have to be very cautious with the way you apply the brakes, because yeah, you're going to start braking while turning, so you have to be super cautious. As I kick the rear of my car out to, you know, drift my way through the corner, I'm very close to the two cars in front, and I was gonna attempt to do the drift overtake from the very beginning of the lap, but I couldn't really do it. Anyway, he still has a 1-second penalty, so I finished in P6. I mean, yeah, the Super GT favorites. Cannot complain at all. So let's go check out Daily Race 3, Dragon Trial Circuit. Amazing. So as the clock starts ticking, it's lights out and away we go. Starting in the Super GT favorite position, again in P6. I didn't have much practice, and that's a very, very horrible idea to do. To race here without practice, because there is 3 very lethal corners that will always attempt to take your life, and you need nanometer level precision. So yeah, you can say it's the circuit of death, and it's earned this reputation for a very obvious reason, as the BMW driver displays a skill issue and rams into the wall. Dragon Trial Circuit is a circuit that promotes heavy racing, a lot of rubbing, but at the same time requires nanometer precision. So it's again such a great circuit to race on if you have the balls for it, and most people, they don't have the balls nor the capacity to race here, so you get a lot of incidents in this circuit. As I somehow miraculously survived the first 3 corners on the first lap, these are usually very hectic, sometimes even worse than Monza turn 1. We are going through this long sector, so you're gonna go into the left-hander and then into the right-hander and then into another left-hander, where again, the throttle stays pinned after the first corner, and you need to be down to the millimeter. You have to nail everything perfectly, or else you're gonna smash at the wall. And as you go into the downhill, again, you have to brake very perfectly, or you're gonna miss the apex and end up like that Ferrari. Exactly. Every corner in the circuit has a way that can kill you, and 3 of them are absolutely ruthless. So as we go into the infamous chicane of death, we are in a 2x2 stack and we are not taking any risks. You can see me lifting way more than I should, not taking any risks at all. I don't have the confidence yet to go that fast in the corner, and that just greatly benefits the Spanish driver up ahead. So I go for an absolute demonstration of a skill issue by braking I mean, it's not too bad, but yeah, it is quite bad. And now I'm going for an attempt into at least catching up to the slipstream, and I'm just in the range, but he did get a better exit, so it's gonna increase as you roll down the circuit. But if I still have that slither of a slipstream, I could catch back up, but I'm obviously not to him, but like I could like equal the speed between me and him, but it's not long enough for a straight. So going into turn 1 and 2, I make a slight mistake, and I clipped a curb on that corner, and that nearly led me into falling for the first big trap on this track. I'm telling you, running through a minefield is safer than driving on this track. This is a guaranteed crash circuit. As I skip to the penultimate lap, you can see we're going into the chicane of death, and then, the Spanish driver, he's going through, and seems like he made a slight mistake judging by the smoke, and yep, the chicane of death claimed his life. So that's an easy position grab as we head into the final corner at 150 kilometers an hour. I'm gonna brake just before the 100-meter bollard, and I want to carry the brakes. You want to carry the brakes usually more, but I feel like there is something new about the Super. I'm not sure, maybe a physics change, BOP change. It just doesn't feel the same. Maybe a setup change too. I didn't read any update list, so I have no idea. Could have a complete physics makeover, while I didn't know. I still didn't check. I don't usually read that stuff. As we start the final lap, I set up myself into turn 1 and 2. You want to sacrifice turn 1 to get the optimal exit for turn 2, but I cooked both of them, to be fair. So I didn't get the best exit I could, and both cars up in front basically pissed off in the sunset. There's no hope of catching them, as I nearly fell for the third trap on a track that almost claimed my life, but I just about managed to keep it at the barrier. Now, yeah, it gave me a little scare. I lost all my time, but I didn't fly into the barrier, and I'm still very much alive in P3, so I thank the Lord for that. And I carry on, but you know, we got 3 cars right behind me, and they're very close, and they're not slow drivers. Again, they're all on my level right now. So, you know, the Spanish driver nearly pushing in, punting into my back, but he did lift like a normal driver would, not like anybody else. And then you have the Frenchie who actually punted the driver in the Spanish off the track, if you keep an eye on the radar. And this is a corner again, very easy to mess up. So I played very cautiously as the Spanish sends a crazy dive bomb. And now the Frenchman is up ahead, so I'm putting a lot of pressure on him, sticking right behind him, leaving him pretty much no space for breathing. And now I'm being very close. I'm being very cautious at the same time, making sure not to hit him. I mean, like, you know, not to kill him, and then not to kill myself in the process also. So again, I'm still very close behind in his slipstream, going into the last corner of the track, braking again just before the 100 bollard, and taking the inside of the corner. No idea why he did not defend that. Maybe he tried to go for the switcheroo, but didn't work, because I do know that corner very well. So I go for the overtake, and it's an easy P3 for me. Quite a nice race, honestly. Just needs way more practice than what I have. Anyway, into daily race C, which was not fun at all. Now it's, for some reason, GR4 category, which is, it's usually their race speed as a GR4, but they decided to make it here. So lights out, and away we go. I look at Senna, the Immortal Senna, new Italian version of Archon Senna. I didn't read the update list. Maybe Formula 1 driver resurrection is a new allowance at Formula 1, as I start making an overtake on him, attempted an overtake, and I do go for the overtake by, you know, pushing him slightly off the track. I mean, the carb is part of the track, so he gets no penalty for that, so it's not really too much of a dirty move. And yeah, I had to push my foot through, or something that says, hey, make some space. Anyway, I'm looking at the 2 drivers up in front. We have the Finnish driver and the German up ahead. So it's gonna be very nice and interesting to see in this corner, where you usually want to brake on the 300 marker, and then you have to be very cautious with how you apply the turning and the braking through here. You got to ride it almost all the way through. Once you go after half the corner, you can say 2/3 of the corner, that's when you can start hammering it, until the Finnish driver hits me and he makes me lose a bit of speed by, you know, forcing me to correct myself. So I attempt to go for another overtake on the Immortal Senna, but he is being very nice and he's covering it very nicely. So I just back out of it, and I'm looking for the next overtaking opportunity, where I just send it down the inside. I'm just trying to establish myself over here by, you know, just knocking on his door, giving him again just about enough space, not an inch more. And yes, I do establish the overtake, and I'm almost fully in front. We're going into this nice tight right-hander, I mean. So I just brake just between the 100 and 200 meter bollard, and yeah, I do make the mistake of, you know, just cooking the corner. So he takes the switcheroo and he overtakes me once again, nearly punting in his bag, you know, just giving him a little kiss on the bumper, saying, you know, all that lovey-dovey stuff, ignoring the fact that I nearly killed him 3 times almost. That's the fun stuff, bit of racing. So yeah, again, another overtake. I take the inside of this corner, not much he can do from there. It's, you need to have big balls to send an overtaking opportunity on the outside of that corner, or like attempt to defend it from the outside. You need to have, again, mega balls. And from the looks of it, he might have claimed the penalty. No, he did not. There was a red car behind, and I thought that was a penalty. So again, still very chill. What's not very chill is this corner, because no matter what I do, I never seem to get it. And yeah, I got it very wrong, where I went off, and yeah, that driver did nearly push me off the track. I had basically 2 millimeters of width, and yeah, he takes the position. I'm back into P4, so in his slipstream, I'm going to look for, once again, the nearest overtaking opportunity. But on this track, yeah, they do present themselves everywhere, but to be fair, this track is not a GR4 track. I feel like GR3, very good. Super Formula, again, very good. Anything with good downforce on this track is absolutely super. And then on the other side, you have like Miatas and all these, you know, lower categories, also very fun. Just not GR4s, because they just feel like overweight bricks driving them. At least the GTR, the NSX I didn't try, so I cannot really judge. But The GTR, it does feel like an overweight pig that cannot ride for a fact. So as the NSX driver goes for a skill issue, and somehow, I have no idea how he established that, but half spinning off the track, I get P3 back again. So I'm going to look to preserve my position by trying to expand the gap to the driver behind as much as possible. But, you know, it's a lot of the time it's easier said than done. So as I skip into lap 3, I gain myself 1.5 second penalty. So that's pretty much my race over there, just done. And if you hear some squealing, just know my bird is being very, very annoying right now. And my only option of making him shut up is turning him into a shawarma sandwich. So I pretty much lose like 2 positions into there, back into P5. Not too much of a deal, I could low-key catch up, but I get myself another second penalty. So 3 of us, if I'm correct, yeah, 3 drivers we are serving at 1 second penalty, I believe, for the same reason on the same corner. You know, not too big of a deal, but I'm not even close enough to be a contender for the fight, at least in the 3-way fight they're having. So, you know, I'm always gonna attempt to get closer and, you know, invite myself into a fight that I was never really invited to, but they're quite far ahead, and again, the GR4 GTR is not the car I'm confident about at all. As you can see me going for an absolute skill issue, ramming it into the wall. And yep, that's pretty much race over. I have another 0.5 second penalty into the end of the race. I served the penalty, and you can see the Ferrari driver, he's pretty much faster than me at this point. He's going to be on the outside of my corner, so my goal here is to position myself where he doesn't overtake me, but he kind of took the corner regardless. So I'm just gonna, you know, preserve my P6, the Super GT favorite position, obviously, and there's not much left for them to do again. They were both fighting into that corner, so they kind of bottled it, or it kind of slowed them down the little fight they had. And now 0.6, 0.7 seconds right here. It's, again, not really much you can do. And going into the final corner, they're not even close enough to attempt an overtake. The only way they can overtake me here is by me demonstrating an absolute skill issue, which clearly I do not, despite all the skill issues I have demonstrated before. This phrase is pretty much bait, or egg, if literally translated, meaning bland, no taste, just literally horrible.